Good afternoon, welcome to Be More Dog Live. We're going to be talking about excessive barking. If one of you lovely viewers could please just type in the comments box and let me know that you can hear me okay, that would be great. Thank you very much. Let me know where you are in the world, what dog you've got, and feel free to type any questions you've got about your dogs and any excessive barking behaviour, and I will do my very best to help you. Hi, Mandy. Just let me know you can hear me okay, please, if that's all right, Mandy. Thank you very much. Got quite a lot to talk about tonight, actually, with the excessive barking. It's quite a big subject, and there's a lot of reasons that would. Perfect, thanks, Anne. There's a lot of reasons why dogs might bark. So I think it's always good to understand why a dog would be barking excessively, because it really helps to know how to deal with the problem. And I think we're really quick to just sort of label it as a problem, and label it as a bad behavior, and just sort of, be angry and upset with the dog, and, just see it as the dog's being bad. But actually, I'll explain it as I go along. It's a very natural behavior. For some dogs, it's actually really, part of their survival instinct. And we're kind of asking them to stop doing what comes naturally to them. So I just decided to make myself a little list of the things, of reasons why dogs might bark. Why is a dog barking? There can be so many different reasons for this. I mean, just have a look. That was like, about a minute or 2 minutes of me thinking about the reasons why dogs might bark, right? So I'm just going to pick out a few of these things, and jump in on the chat and let me know what dogs you've got and what sort of barking they're doing. So look, I suppose the main thing with dogs barking is communication, right? I think that's kind of sits above everything. For the most part, they're communicating. They're trying to say something, whatever that is. It might be because there's a threat or a danger, and they're trying to notify us, or people, or whoever else is in the group, that there's a problem. And it's easy to forget that dogs sense things that we don't sense. So sometimes you might think the dog's barking at nothing. They're probably most of the time not. Sometimes it does happen. You can get that kind of neurotic barking, which is on my list. But a lot of the time they sense things that we can't sense, and they hear things, they definitely smell things that we can't smell. So some of the time this barking might be down to the fact that the dog is alerting us that there's some sort of threat, there's some sort of danger. Now, for the most part, we know that somebody banging their car door isn't really a threat, or maybe a voice out in the street isn't a real threat. But to some dogs it really is. And I want to pick up on a couple of social characters that are more likely to bark than the other types of characters. So within the dog world, within the canine world, within the wolf world, and dogs have adopted this, they've all got their individual social characters. And there's probably about 6 or 7 social characters that dogs have got as their sort of true identities. And I'm going to pick up on 2. So there's one which is called the early warner. And they're very suspicious types of dogs. So they're born to be wary, they're born to be suspicious, they're naturally guarded, they're naturally on alert, and they're very susceptible to sounds and movement and things like that. And it's actually a really, really important survival instinct for the rest of the group. So in a group of wolves, or in a group of dogs, the early warner is the sort of dog that would be sitting on the peripheral, on the edges, out looking. So their job is to alert and to tell the rest of the group that they've heard something, or they've sensed something, they've smelt something. And it's a very, very you know, it's a really, really important function of the group. And while the others might be sort of sleeping or playing or resting or what eating or whatever it is, you know, the early warner will be the one that's on the lookout and keeping watch, if you like. And without that type of character in the group, the rest of the group probably die, because they are the alarm system to alert the rest of the group that there's a potential danger. So they will vocalize. And then the rest of the group would immediately rally up and get ready and, you know, sort of be prepared to deal with whatever's coming. So without that really essential suspicious character in the group, it really puts at risk the rest of the survival of the rest of the group, right? And it's, you know, it's really important. Now, there will be lots of you that have got early warner type of dogs, and you probably don't know this. You might not know very much about it. Maybe you don't, you know, but I'm sure that there will be some of you, because I do certainly work with quite a lot of this type of dog, where they are very, very alert. They're the sort of dog that will spend a lot of time looking out of the window. They're the sort of dog that will, you know, get startled quite easily, you know, if there's a noise. They tend to be just a little bit suspicious of visitors coming into the house. They tend to take time to get to know people. They, you know, they're up in a flash if there's a noise, if they're fast asleep. I haven't sort of come across this in my teachings, but it's my opinion that a lot of it's a trait that I see a lot in the terrier breeds, where they've just got that sort of suspicious, feisty vocal edge about them. And it's a really important trait. So I think it's really important to try and remember this, that, you know, some of the barking that dogs are doing, you know, for a large part of it, it's actually functional, and it's not a waste of time, and it's not unnecessary, and it, you know, for them it isn't anyway. We know that it might be a little bit over the top, but for the dog, it's actually doing its job properly. And it's very difficult for an early warner type of dog to not do its job, right? It's very difficult for them to hear something, smell something, sense something, have an awareness of something that is potentially a danger, and they are quite they've got quite low tolerance of what a danger might be. It's very difficult for them to experience that and go, oh, it'll be all right. It just doesn't come in, it just doesn't sit in their makeup. So they're just not very trusting of things. And like I say, it's a survival instinct. And it keeps them alive. It keeps the rest of the group alive. So one of my dogs, I believe, is an early warner, and she can be very, very vocal. And she does like to spend quite a lot of time looking out of the window, and, you know, small noises will sort of trigger her. Now, that said, I do believe it's possible to work with a dog like this and find a happy medium. And by the way, as I'm talking, if any of you've got any questions or want to like jump in on the chat on what I'm talking about, please do, because I think it's quite an interesting subject. So I think it's possible to work with a dog like this, and to coach them and guide them, of being slightly less reactive to things, and to sort of continue to do their job, because I think it's really important. If a dog feels like it's got a job to do, I think it's really important that they can express their natural character. I think it's quite unfair and quite stressful to expect a dog that's got this natural trait within it to not be that. You'd have to really, really shut the dog down, and put it into a state of like depression. So I think it's about working with the individual character of the dog. So I'll give you an example. Let's say my little dog is up at the window. I might try and discourage her from spending too much time up at the window, because I don't want her to be worrying about what's going on out there. It's partly hunting for her as well, being a terrier, but there is part of this that she's kind of on lookout, and it's not necessary. I don't want her to do it. So that's one thing that I can do, is I can just discourage, shut the blinds, whatever, ask her to move down so she's not spending too much time up there barking. But then if she does bark, how we respond to this is really important. And I think a lot of the time, with our frustration, it's really easy to get angry at the dog and sort of shout, shut up, and things like that. And, there's no one there or whatever, and just get quite, quite loud and animated ourselves. And all that's going to do is to trigger the dog and push the dog forward even more. Because if we respond in a way that, oh yeah, there could be danger there, by moving about really fast and having a higher, a louder tone, a louder volume to our voice, and just looking a bit angry and everything like that, it's going to feel like there's something wrong. It's going to feel like the dog has actually, yeah, you know what, there is something to worry about. And then you just get a barking frenzy, right? So we shout at the dog continues barking. We're like, shut up, shut up, shut up. Dog continues barking. Just everyone's just barking together. It doesn't help the situation, and it just adds volume and it adds energy into the situation. And it doesn't work, right? It doesn't stop the dog from barking. So for this particular type of character, I've got two methods that I would use. One would be to calmly walk over there and investigate the situation. And I say calmly because I think it's really important to not be rushing, not running, rushing, because what would a dog do if there was danger? They would be running, What would a dog do if there was nothing to worry about? They would be like, sauntering, right? So I think it's quite important to move fairly slowly, and then to just go and have a look at what's going on out there, and then to just almost sort of reassure your dog by saying it's okay, but without adding in too much reward, and without adding in too much sort of energy into the situation. So not saying it's all right, calm down, it's okay, because it's that classic thing where if I want to show my dog everything's okay, I don't really want to be raising my eyebrows up, and I don't really want to be getting furrows in my brow, and I don't want to be lifting my shoulders up, and I don't want my voice to go up an octave, right? So if I kind of go from this to it's all right, it's okay, it doesn't feel like it's okay. It looks like there's something to worry about. So the reassurance part of it would be to just have a look, check out the noise, and then to just calmly say, okay, and then move away. And if you've got a decent enough relationship with your dog, where your dog, it defers to you, and where your dog will take guidance from you, that should be enough. If that area needs work, your dog might not give up on the problem and might continue barking, because if it doesn't have that relationship where it trusts your judgment, it might still feel the need to keep on barking. And that would be something to work on in your relationship. You could have a lead on your dog, or just a loose collar, and just calmly lead the dog away, trying not to grab. So if a dog is in a barking frenzy and is very angry at something and is all wound up, and it suddenly feels a grab from behind, you can get a redirected bite or a snap out, because the dog just doesn't really, it's just in a red mist, and all of a sudden it gets touched, it's going to react. So you just would sort of want to softly, put a hand on the finger underneath the collar and lead the dog down. If that's an issue for you, you could maybe just have a lead on the collar and lead the dog away. Wait for your dog to stop barking, and then you can allow your dog back into the space. So that is one way of dealing with the early warner type of dog. And with you watching, I'm just curious to know if any of you feel like you might have an early warner type of dog. I'm just going to have a look at some of the messages here. Mandy says, my dog actually screams in the morning to get out, and sometimes in the evening, but never in the day. So Mandy, I wouldn't let her out while she's in that mind, for whatever reason, whether she's going fox hunting or just frantic to go out and do a territory patrol. I wouldn't let her out I would move her away from the door, whether you need to use a lead or whether you need to just use the collar, and then wait for her to settle, and then go out with her. So you'll support her, you accompany her outside when she's in a calmer state of mind. Anne Cleary, hi Anne, says my whippet never barks. On the rare occasion that's it, she does, it's an event. That's interesting. I'm not that familiar with the breed. I know the Basenji is a sort of silent bark. Another thing to think about with that, Anne, is like the bark is a sort of, it tells the world that the dog is there. So, you know, maybe your dog just doesn't want to, maybe your dog is just like a quiet, sort of shy person where it doesn't want to let everyone know that it's there. Martina says, my Dachshund nearly needs to early warn us about everything. Leaves from a falling tree are her speciality. Yeah, so that particular breed, Martina, I think it's quite common. I feel like they've got that terrier trait in them. And they can be, you know, they're kind of quite low tolerance to sort of noises and sounds and things like that. And it can sort of become a little bit of a sort of lifestyle for the dog, where it just gets built into their system. You know, they're just sort of on alert all of the time. So what you could do is kind of work on it as an exercise, you know, with barking in the house, barking in the garden, that sort of thing, and try and coach your dog, and just be really, really calm. Because if we want to bring down the energy of our dogs, we've got to lead by example. So if I'm getting frustrated, if my dog is barking and I'm getting frustrated and I'm going, all right, enough, shut up, I'm not very calm. And my dog will think that there's something wrong because I'm getting upset. And so my dog will back me up and continue barking to make the thing go away. So your energy needs to be really calm. You could also maybe set up a little bit of a training exercise with your dog where you do some, you'd need someone to help you with this, where you have someone maybe flapping a leaf or something. And if your dog does bark excessively, you just move it away, wait for it to calm, and then bring it back, and just make sure you're only rewarding it for showing calmness. Hi, oh my goodness, my mind's gone blank. West Country Doberman Rescue, Samantha for Rolo and Roxy, the little barking buggers. Yeah, so we've spoken a little bit. They're guarding breeds, so that is something that's on my list, Natalie. The guarding breeds, right? Again, bred to defend, bred to protect. So it is totally in the nature of that dog to bark and to defend the territory, or the family, the group, from, you know, perceived threats. So you know, it's kind of hardwired into them. But I think the same sort of things apply, whatever the dog, whatever the breed. Not leaving the dog outside for so long that they feel like they need to defend. They feel like they're out in the garden on their own. And I know at the moment with the hot weather, or with the warmer weather, it's easy to just have the doors open and the dog be sitting outside and us inside, and the dog's out there for so long that it's going to feel that it is the one that is doing the defending, right? So if a car pulls up or somebody walks past with another dog, it's really only natural that that dog would bark. Really, if it's out there on its own, it's got no one else to support it, something's happening, well, I think of course it's going to bark, especially if it's guardian breed, right? So I think there would need to be consistent messages for the dogs to say, look, I'm out here when I'm with you. When you're out in the garden, I'm with you. I support you. Any excessive barking, I'm just going to bring you inside. When you quieten down, when you calm down, we can come out again. And I will deal with any threats. And I think you know, the sort of basis of this is having that really good relationship where the dog is happy to defer to you for that. So as an example, with my Doberman Buddy, we have that relationship where he will receive, concede, if that's the word, if he barks at something, which is, he's not a very big barker, but if he does bark at something, I will calmly walk over there and I will say to him, okay, and he will just go, all right, no worries, like, you, thanks, you've sorted it, because we've got that sort of relationship. So I think that's really, really important. Viv Southgate says our dog reacts to the same noise over and over again, normally noisy children in the field behind us, or even when we sneeze. How do we stop this? Right, okay, so have a think about how you feel about the noisy children in the field as well. So I just want to mention this because I think it's really important. And I'll give you an example. There's somebody that lives near me that I'm not that keen on, that I'm a little bit frightened of. And like I said, Buddy's not very vocal. He's not a very vocal dog. People can drive past, people can walk past. He's not that bothered. But when this person walks past, he gets quite angry, and he really does bark and run the fence. And I feel that it might be that he's picking up on my feeling, my thoughts, even though I'm not saying anything, and even though I'm not doing anything. I think that he might be picking up on how I feel about the situation. So just check in with you how you feel about that, because I know that noisy children can be a bit, distracting for some of us. I think same rules apply. Don't leave the dog out there for too long unattended. If he does bark, bring him in, calm him down, and then calmly bring him back out again. Don't let him run out at 100 miles an hour. That's not what we want. We want him to come out calmly. And if he kicks off again, just bring him in, calm him down. When I say calm him down, I mean I don't mean stroking him and saying, "It's all right, calm down, calm down." I mean, just sort of be there and just be present with him, and be quiet and breathe, and hopefully he'll stop barking, and then you can attempt to bring him out again. Even when you sneeze, so maybe your dog's got just a bit of a hypersensitivity to sounds and things like that. I would want to know how you react to this when he barks when you sneeze. Like, does anyone in the house go, "Oh, stop it! Don't be silly. I'm only sneezing," or anything like that? Because I think that barking to get a reaction is another reason, right? So my long list of things, barking for attention, that's another reason why dogs can bark. So they can very quickly learn that if I bark, or I barked at something once and I got some attention, so okay, I'll try that again. And then that's when you can have these sorts of dogs that are very vocal, just really sort of non-stop barking at nothing, just barking in your face, barking for attention. So just make sure that you're not reacting when he sneezes. If you've got no reaction whatsoever, sorry, when you sneeze, if you give no reaction whatsoever and your dog still barks, I'd maybe just calmly walk out of the room. Don't say anything. When he stops barking, come back in. Don't look at your dog. Just sit down, completely act normal. Just completely ignore your dog. And hopefully that might help. He sounds like he might be a little bit sensitive anyway, and he might be a little bit, his whole system might be a little bit aroused anyway. So it might need some work in general. I just want to go back to my list of things. So I talked briefly about the guarding breeds. So there's another type of social character, which is called the protector or the defender. And that's something that you would see a lot of in the guarding breeds, but you can get it in all breeds as well. And this is the biggest of the litter. This is the strongest of the litter, and it's their job to do the defending of the rest of the group. Now, they can be quite barky because they will use their voice to try and sort of get things away, like the guardian breeds as well. So I'm just trying to help people have a little bit of an understanding as to why dogs are barking, because it's easy to just think, "Oh, bloody dog, shut up." But a lot of the time that's not what it is, right? A lot of the time there's a reason why the dog is barking, and we need to sort of support them with it, and let them know that we appreciate what they're doing, but then we will take over, so it doesn't become neurotic and it doesn't become too excessive, and that we can sort of reduce the intensity of it a little bit. And it's really interesting actually, because if I spend time with friends and family dogs, I will get a different reaction out of some dogs with just me in the room and there's a noise, compared to when the owner is in the room and there's a noise. And it is because how the individual person deals with that noise and their automatic response to that noise. So I'll give you another example. There is a dog that I know of that has a bit of a thing about foxes. And one evening I was looking after this dog, and I could hear the foxes starting in the distance. And I could see that she was beginning to get irritated and beginning to get wound up. And she looked at me for information as to what was happening. And I just gave the softest, non-reactive response that I could give, which was just to sort of be all slouchy and tired and just, barely even like acknowledging it, so all my body language is saying there's nothing going on here. There's no need for you to react to this. And dramatically, I was able to have her in the room with the foxes walking past you, that sort of screechy noise that they do, actually going past the house, screeching. And she was awake and she was like listening, but she wasn't going mental inside the house. And it was because of that moment when she said, "What's happening here?" And my response was, "There's nothing happening because there's nothing going on." So it didn't tip over into an issue. So that's another thing that can help a dog, to sort of, when they're on that slope of starting to get too aroused, and you could just roller coaster them down again and keep them into a calmer state of mind. So I hope that sort of is useful for some of you. Donna, hi Donna. Maya is half Lhasa Apso, so barks a lot to warn us. Yeah, and I don't see that as being naughty. It's not naughty. She's vocalizing to let you know she's heard something, and it would be really mean to sort of expect to mute her. And actually, I did hear, was told once of somebody's dog who used to bark quite a bit, and it could be that that was part of this dog's character trait, was a natural warning type of dog, and went to daycare, and because it was barking, they put a bark collar on it, and it went off, and then but the dog barked, but it just triggered all the other dogs to bark as well. And they all had bark collars on. And so they're all barking with his bark collars going on. It was just awful. And it's like, we kind of have to be a little bit sympathetic to what's going on, right? And just not expect dogs to be completely mute in situations. If I see a spider, I'm going to scream, and it's going to be very, very difficult for me not to react to that. You'd have to really come at me with something like a gun or something for me to not react to the spider and just be still. So I think it's a bit mean to expect our dogs to just be like these mute things all the time, when actually they're notifying us, and they sense things that we don't sense. They live their lives with this extra sense that we have lost touch with, that is part of their survival instinct. So we should support them if they do hear something, but then we need to take over, and that's when hopefully it doesn't become neurotic and OTT. Anne says whippets are not good guard dogs, but very nosy. They like to look out at passers-by. Not good guard dogs. Okay, that's all right. Martina says a big issue for me is reactive noises in the garden, and as a lockdown puppy, visitors. Yeah, and that's a really common problem. And another thing that will add to that, Martina, is the time of year that the puppy is born. So if you have an early warner character that was born in the winter, that is going to be really hard, because puppies that are born in the winter are we just don't have the amount of time in the day. We don't have the daylight. Everyone's locked in. We don't have people making all the noises, the barbecue noises, mowing the grass, all that sort of stuff, people out on their bikes and whatnot. And we're just not doing as much in the winter. So if a puppy is born in the winter, it kind of grows up, with limited exposure to natural sounds that happen in our environment. So when it comes around to the summertime, and it's like 6 months old, and all of a sudden starts hearing these weird noises, it can be really triggering for them. because they didn't get that gentle exposure to it when they were younger. So the combination of the two can be difficult. So it's always better to get puppies in the summertime, because you've got more opportunity to do some careful exposure to things in those summer months. Tracy Hill says, my dog is fairly vocal during the day, but at night silent. Okay, even with loud noises. A few cars were damaged last week and windows were smashed, but he didn't murmur. Okay, that's interesting. So it could be maybe because I don't know if you've got your windows a bit more open in the daytime, doors are open a bit more in the daytime. In a way, I'm glad he sleeps through without getting woken up. Maybe there's some of your movements and stuff that are triggering him to be a little bit more reactive during the day, Tracy. And maybe when you're sleeping, he's also, he knows you're asleep, right? They can sense us. So when you're fast asleep, the messages you're giving off are, look, we're in the land of Nod, there's nothing to worry about. So maybe there's an element of this that he's picking up on your movements and your sort of responses to things, maybe without you even realizing it, and that's maybe making him slightly more vocal. Another reason dogs can bark excessively is attention seeking. So it's quite an easy thing for a dog to be taught, to sort of be trained by accident, is attention seeking behavior. So for example, the dog is outside and the door is shut and it barks because it wants to come in, and we open the door, obviously, and we let the dog in. It does that a couple of times and it realizes, oh, okay, that barking worked, so I'll do it in other situations. Or the dog might bark because we are playing, we stop playing, and then the dog barks because it wants us to carry on, and we carry on. And then the dog learns, well, yes, that vocalizing generally tends to get the attention. So that's just a couple of examples. You can have like so many examples of that. But that's another thing that could potentially create a habit in a dog, a learned behavior where a dog learns just barking for attention. Okay, and I see quite a lot of this when I go to do my consultations. My default normally is that I just don't engage with the dog when I get there. I just ignore the dog. And for some dogs, this is a real challenge for them. They've never had this before. They normally get attention as soon as someone walks in. So what will happen is that quite often I'll get dogs barking at me because they want, they're like, well, come on, why aren't you giving me attention? And that's another sort of example of learned behavior. So how would you deal with that? Well, it would be about not giving the dog the attention, not giving the dog whatever it wants. So whether it wants its box of toys or its dinner, or to get up on the sofa, or to play, or attention, anything like that, to not give it while the dog is barking, and to either send the dog away or walk away, and then wait for a little bit of space in between. When the dog is calmer and a bit more mannerly, then do the thing that was wanted in the first place, if that's what you want to do. So the dog learns that actually barking doesn't really get me anything, but actually being calm and quiet does. So you're more likely to get the calm and quiet cycle than the vocal cycle. And sometimes it can go on for a long time. The barking can be quite persistent, and it's really easy to just go, oh, okay, yes, I'll fuss you. But then the dog's won and the dog's learned the barking works, so it just intensifies. So if that's a problem for you, I would just get up and leave the room, and that probably work. And as long as you can get a gap of like 5 seconds or something of silence, and just come back in the room, just ignore your dog, just sit down, and then maybe then call it over and give it some attention. There's also some senile dogs, dogs that are getting on in life, that can display senile behaviors and neurotic barking. So this is more of a medical issue, and with behavior training, you know, it may help a little bit, but it may not, because the dog is senile and is displaying senile behavior, so it's just a bit, you know, not in its right mind. And that would need veterinary treatment. So, you know, dogs that are old, dogs that are getting on, you know, slowing down, you know, maybe bumping into things, maybe that have got a change of behavior, like strange behaviors, maybe some staring into space, or just like, you know, not themselves, like going off their food, and the excessive barking, that could be a sign of dementia stepping in. So that's another cause for excessive barking. And I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking about, as we get older, I think we probably start to talk to ourselves a little bit more. I started talking to myself a little bit. I never ever used to, but I just a little bit, you know, and I'll start doing it more and more. And maybe it's just a start thing of getting older. You just talk to yourself a bit more. You know, and maybe it's not dissimilar for dogs, right? Maybe they're just more vocal when they get older. But I do think there's part of it where it's not a conscious thing. So that's what makes it difficult to train it out of the dog, because it's not a conscious thing. The dog's not in the right state of mind. You know, its brain has probably, you know, not functioning properly because it's old. A lot of barking is a communication. So the dog is trying to communicate something. And I think I said that at the beginning, that's probably like the overriding reason, whatever that is, right? So if you try to understand why the dog is barking, and you know, try to see it as a form of communication, you'll hopefully have a little bit more sympathy and a bit more compassion and understanding as to why the dog is barking. Then any training protocols would need to be set in place accordingly. So reasons dogs might bark: it might be excited, they might be highly aroused, they could be fearful, they could be very frightened, they could be bored, it could be before going on a walk or a hunt, right? So if you think about pack of wolves or hounds before they go hunting, it's very, 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 very vocal, because they're getting the pack ready. You know, they need the energy because it's time, we're going, you know, it's like geeing up. You need to get everything hyped up, psyched up. So that could happen before a walk, where it's a natural behavior of the dog to bark and to come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. We're going out hunting. We're not going to go out hunting like just a little mosey. We're going out hunting. Come on, everyone. So if you start thinking about it a bit more deeply, it kind of, I feel, gives quite an interesting insight as to, you know, why is the dog barking, right? You know, don't just blanket rule going, it's just barking for no reason, it's a mad dog. There's probably a reason behind it. There will be a reason behind it. You just need to establish why, what is that reason? And just remember some of the character traits that I talked about at the beginning, because it's their default survival instinct. It's a deep grained in the DNA of these dogs. It's survival. So you don't bark, we all die. So it's a really, really important trait for these dogs. Some dogs have been taught to speak. So that's quite a cool trick that some people like to teach their dogs to do. And then the dog has learned, okay, well, speaking gets me a treat, or I get loads of attention. And then that can be one of those tricks that can cause you problems, which is a little bit like, in my opinion, teaching the dog paw. It can lead to a dog that just is constantly like batting you, bashing you. So teaching the speak command can be one of those ones that can cause dogs to be a bit over the top in their barking, because they've been taught to do it, right? So I guess you just have to stop doing the speak command if that was the case. You've also got the let me in bark, but that's a different type of bark, right? It's a very different type of bark. The let me out, I need a wee bark, let me in, I'm cold bark, let me in, I'm really lonely out here. That's a different type of bark to the sort of excessive patrolly sort of barking. But again, it's communication. It's the dog saying, look, I want to come in. So there's such an array, there's such a like broad reason why dogs should be barking, we think excessively. But once you drill down into it, there's reason behind a lot of this. And a lot of these terrier types, what could potentially be like the lookout type of dogs, it's absolutely within their DNA to alert, but how you respond to that is really, really critical. So as I was saying, you've got the option of just with a lead, just leading your dog away, or you can try the sort of sleepy, oh, I'm so tired, you're just falling asleep. That can work really well for some dogs. If they look to you, they hear a noise and they look to you, and you're just like, smiling, tired and smiling. You're just saying to your dog, I'm not getting up, I'm not moving. I have been with somebody who is sort of obsessed with looking at vehicles that go past the window. So like engines, like motorbikes and things, like any time anything loud goes past, just out of curiosity, this person will get up and, want to have a look because they like vehicles, they like cars and stuff. And it's made their dog a bit neurotic. Anytime there's a loud vehicle go past, dog's like, what is it? Because every time a vehicle goes past, the owner is jumping up and looking out the window. The dog is copying that behavior and very diligently and faithfully copying that behavior because they look to us for guidance. This is quite interesting. Tracy Hill says, my dog is let me show this, oh yeah, we talked about that one already. Oh yeah, and that reminds me, I know somebody who's got a terrier, early warner type of dog, who's very, very vocal, and I don't believe it's right to scold this dog or shut up and stop it, all of that. I don't feel that it's right. I feel like it's the wrong approach. I feel like it's stressful for the dog. But very interestingly, one night this dog was barking late at night, and the owner just ignored it, or probably was like, oh, shut up, whatever, just didn't do anything. What was happening is the person was being burgled, and something was being stolen downstairs. So the dog was right. So I think we need to do something. I don't think we should completely ignore it. I think we should either calmly go and investigate it, or if if you get up and go over there and that triggers your dog to get worse, which might happen for some dogs, you can try the passive route of just looking all slouchy and tired, or you can keep a lead on them and lead them away, and encourage them to settle and calm, and then bring them back again. Donna Bray says yes, yeah, definitely, yeah. And as well, Donna, another trait of this character is to be a little bit aloof, and might come across as being a little bit snobby. So they are not the goofball type of dogs, right? The lookout dogs, the early warner dogs, they are the ones that if you go to the park and you've got a bunch of dogs running around playing with each other, the early warner will not be playing. It will be in the peripheral, observing, keeping well back, because it's self-preserving and it doesn't like to get involved in stuff like that, because that's not paying attention to the environment. So if you think back to the pack of wolves, the pups, the young ones, will be doing all of that play. But even at a very, very young age, that early warner type, that alert type dog is going to be hanging back. It's a the life of the dog. It's just its whole character. That's how it functions. So it wouldn't spend a lot of time goofing around, because you know what, when you goof around, there's a tiger coming, or there's another pack coming into our territory, and you've missed it because you've been goofing around. So she has got that aloof, sort of detached way about her, which I feel kind of complements her character. And it's too stressful for her to be in situations where she can't, there's too much going on, or she doesn't really want to be playing with a whole bunch of dogs because she needs to sort of concentrate on what's going on around her. Jane Edwin says, our Doberman is always looking to bark at neighbours' dogs in the adjacent garden. He'll approach the fence and bark once, as if to provoke a response. Okay, so I wonder how you deal with that. I would calmly discourage that. So if you feel like he's trotting over there because he's just trying to get a reaction, you could maybe just, calmly call him to you before he gets over there. And so let's say you saw him trotting over there and his name was Barney. You just go, Barney, and just call him over to you before he gets to the fence. And if he doesn't come to you, then maybe just have a lead on him, and then just sort of lead him away. It can be quite difficult for dogs as well. This is another thing that I feel quite sympathetic, is that, if you think about any canine, foxes or African hunting dogs or wolves or dogs, they wouldn't live so close to, their rival's territory. It's very unnatural. So, they would have their territory, they would have their area that they roam and defend and hunt in, and they would maintain that. And it would be a real problem if another canine was coming into that territory. This is challenging, this is threatening, to the survival of the group. So it's kind of very, very unnatural for dogs. We put them in these situations where we go, right, you're going to live next door to another guarding breed dog that's got its genitals, and you two are going to really, really clash, and I'm going to make you can smell each other every day, and you can sense each other every day, and he's really close to you, and you're going to have to deal with that day in, day out. It can be very stressful, and it's very unnatural, right? So at the same time, I just feel like we need to give dogs a little bit of a break for some of these things, because your Doberman is a guarding breed. He knows those dogs are there, so it's only natural that he's going to bark at. That's what he was bred for, right? But I think with gentle guidance and gentle coaching, you can just tone it down. You can just lead him away from there, praise him for ignoring it. If he does go over the top, just bring him in. So everything you're doing is going, look, we don't want any trouble. I don't need you to do that. I'm not asking you to do that. Please forget about that. And that's going to help. I'm sure that will help. Rex Rob, hi Rex. Rex says, sometimes Ernie is barking at the back of the garden, and he knows we go inside of his barking. So soon as he hears me coming, he stops barking and lays down and grabs a chew. Do we take him back inside for barking in the first place, or do we praise him for stopping by himself? So, maybe he's heard you coming, and maybe he feels like, could be a couple of things going on here. It could be he feels like, oh, it's okay, mum's coming, I can just relax now. So I think your response would be to whatever he's doing when you see him. So if he was barking his head off for 10 minutes, going crazy, and then at the second you walked out into the garden, he was just chewing his chew, I'd probably, just say good boy. Because that's what he was doing at the moment that you joined him. You might just want to stay out with him a little bit and see how he is. Don't leave him out there for too long, because he will feel like he needs to do the defending. It's also a very male trait as well. So if you think about the biology of the group, it's the males that would be doing a lot of the defending. So they're naturally defensive. And this is another thing as well to think about, that if you're a female and you have a male dog, your dog could be a little bit more defensive of you, because biologically the males would protect the females. So that's another thing to bear in mind. So yeah, I would maybe stay out there with him a little bit, Rex. And if you feel like he is barking excessively, you can't stop him, I would just bring him in, wait for his energy to drop down, and then you can bring him out again. But it sounds like he suddenly feels a bit more relaxed, a bit more relieved that you're there, and he wouldn't be chewing if he felt threats. So dogs won't eat if they feel danger. They won't eat. Digestion is the last thing on their mind if there's danger. So if he's decided to chew something, it means he's not feeling scared anymore. So you've obviously given him some backup, some support there. So maybe you just need to be out with him a little bit more in the garden. Martina says, thankfully with summer born. Okay, that's good. That really, really does help. It really does help. A lot of dogs can be, it's just a sort of side thing, but they can be quite scared of the dark. You know, so if you're born in the if your dog's born in the summertime, you can spend time out in the garden. It's slowly getting dark. You know, when it's winter, we're just sort of huddled inside. We don't want to go out. We've got to wait until, like, you know, 10 o'clock, and then at 9 o'clock, and then it's like dark at 3 o'clock. But in the summer, we sit out in the garden. We have these long summer evenings like today. It slowly, gradually gets dark. It's really peaceful and lovely, and that can help with the dark issue. Rex, yeah, thanks. He's quite protective of us. Yeah, it can be. It can be. You know, I think working on the relationship really, really helps. So I find this a little bit annoying, right? It's just I can't change my biology. I can't change my hormones. I can't change the way that I smell. So I smell like a female. That's that, right? So there's always going to be that element where, and I see this quite a lot actually. If I go into a house and the resident dog feels a bit threatened because I'm a strange person coming in, quite often the dog will run to the male in the house because they're looking for that protection. Because biologically, the males are stronger, more defensive, more protective, more fearless, you know, bigger, all of that. So, you know what? There's trouble. I want to be with him because he's going to be the one to look out for me. If anything kicks off here, I want to be next to him. And as women, we can't change it. There's nothing we can do about that. We just have to accept it. Rex says he's definitely more relaxed when we are out there with him. Yeah, so I would make sure you don't leave him out there for too long unattended. I don't leave my dogs outside. I might pop in quickly to go to the toilet or something. I will just run inside and I need to grab a pen or whatever, but I'm back out there again. And if ever I hear any barking in the house, I will always come down. Well, if it's one woof and it stops, I might just leave it. But if I hear sustained barking, I would have to be, even if I'm in the bath, I'll get out, right? I would have to be like literally, I can't stop what I'm doing for me not to come, because I want my dogs to understand that come hell or high water, I'm there and I will always back up. So I don't ignore the barking. This is another thing I think is really easy to do. And what happens there is that the dog goes, well, I'm screaming my head off because I've seen something. No one's coming to help me. Oh my God, I'm just on my own here. And then that can promote this excessive barking because the dog knows it's not getting any support, and so it's all on its own, and it can be quite stressful. And I just want to say about the early warner type of dogs, that their job is to alert. They are not strong dogs. They are not fighting dogs. They don't want any trouble. So remember I said they're on the peripheral, right? They don't want to get involved in anything. So if there is danger, they're one of the last type of dogs that want to be involved in it. So it can be really stressful for a dog that needs to vocalize, that needs to be the alarm system. It can be very stressful for that dog needs a protective backup. That dog needs a support. It needs defensive backup. Without that, can be very stressful for that dog because it's then having to adopt a totally different type of character, which is to defend, which probably a lot of our dogs have to do actually, where they're not defended. And so they, by default, somebody has to do the defending in the group, right? There has to be someone in the group that does defending. Just that's how it is. And if there isn't anyone doing it, the dog will do it out of pure necessity. And that's when it can become quite stressful for the characters that it's not their natural instinct, it's not their natural trait. right? So that makes it even worse, because then that dog is getting very stressed, and stressed dogs are more likely to bark more. And then that's when they might start barking at things that are really, really unnecessary, like the leaf blowing around in the wind. Because everything is just, anything and everything is a problem now, and it just spills over. And then when it starts to get slightly neurotic, so it's really worth bearing in mind that those dogs need to have the support, and they need to be understood. They need to be understood for their characters. Now, not all dogs are this natural character, and sometimes dogs can adopt different traits that are not their true characters, their true identities, for all sorts of reasons. And so it can be easy to confuse. But I've given you some sort of indications, and it just, in my personal experience, my personal opinion, I feel like a lot of the terrier types can be like that, and some of the Dachshunds as well. Um, Tracy says, thank you, very interesting. I'll be contacting you about another session. Great. So look forward to that. And Rex says, since our session, we've got a lot better at calming him when he barks and get anxious. Yeah, and this is why I get a little bit upset with the whole bark collar but sort of approach, because like I'll talk about me and the spider thing again. So let's say somebody puts a tape over my mouth every time there's a spider in the room, I'm going to end up having a nervous breakdown if there's spiders around and I can't scream for help. So I feel like it's really, really cruel, actually, to the dog to just like shock it and put more fear into a situation, when actually all it's trying to do is say to you, there's a problem here, can you come and help me? So I'm hoping that some of you will start to think about this barking issue in a different light, and try to understand it, try to get behind the reasons for it. With that knowledge, as with all what we do with behavior stuff, when you understand why your dog is doing what it's doing, then you've got that's the hard part, is working out why. And when you know why, then you can look at trying to help it. So I'm going to leave you for tonight. Thanks for all your comments and questions. I hope you found it useful. Don't forget, I've got my fireworks seminar next week on Sunday. The information is on my page, and I think it's now cool enough to take the dog out. So have a lovely evening, everyone, and I'll see you all again next time.